Greetings and welcome to the Mount Rushmore Podcast. My name is Jeff, and I'm joined, as always, by my good friends Richard.
Hello.
And Michael.
Howdy.
Richard and Michael like to debate, discuss, discern, and generally argue about the top of any given topic. This week's no different as they discuss the Mount Rushmore of bad airport behavior. But they're not discussing it and debating it and discerning it with each other. They're debating it and discussing it with a longtime friend, well-respected colleague, and all-around good guy, Chris Cary, who's in our studio. Chris, how you doing?
Doing very well.
Now, is it true that you chose this topic?
I chose this topic.
What made you choose it?
I was at the airport and was annoyed.
And end of podcast.
Ernest Hemingway is in our studio today. That's fabulous. Well,
Baby shoes for sale.
I think we are the saddest words. I think we all, experience these public spaces, especially ones where you have relative anonymity, because wherever the people who you meet, you're not going to know them for long. They're going to be around you for a few hours at most, and then you're off on your merry way. So you're not building a relationship or establishing your character amongst those people. So we are often at our worst on freeways, on public sidewalks, on hospital waiting rooms, and in airports. Was there something specific that happened?
I don't want to go into too many details because it tips off one of my selections.
Okay.
But I.
Yeah, nice try, Jeff.
No.
Well, we should jump right into it then. So if Chris chose the topic, but is also the guest, does he still go second?
You're the judge. Up to
I
you.
don't know.
Okay. I think we should let you guys go first, because then Chris can just beat up on you. So
I'll buy that.
Yeah,
Okay.
that sounds good.
All right, I'll go. All right, I'll jump in with our first one, and this is anytime someone tries to cut to the front of the line of the queue to get onto the plane, like the boarding line.
Yes.
Let's back up just a quick. We have a bit of a story to tell, and ours is a story of a singular business traveler.
Don't tell it.
No,
Dance it.
Let's call
Dance
him.
it.
Let's call him Chris.
Okay.
Okay.
No. This is a Chris. No, it's a Chris with a K.
Different Chris.
Begins with a K.
Oh, okay.
You know what? That is rude. We'll call him Mr. Cary.
Okay.
But it's spelled totally differently.
Totally different.
Yeah.
McCary? Is it McCary?
Chris with a K, McCary with 3 Ks.
Okay.
Wait
Okay.
a second.
Oh,
This
that sounds a little racist.
this completely symbolic anonymous, not our guest Chris.
Correct.
Something happened to this.
Imagine this guy.
Okay.
Businessman from some awful town in the
Yeah.
Midwest.
Handsome, pretty eyes.
Yeah.
Tall.
All of that.
Okay.
It's not you, Jeff.
Oh, sorry.
Or
No.
is it?
No.
Let's back up.
Okay.
It's a handsome businessman named Jeff Hopkins.
Okay.
Good job.
Oh,
He's totally going to fall for it.
Is this person our straw man throughout the whole entire podcast? Is that what it is?
Yeah.
Or is this just for the story?
Our strong
I don't know. It's a
Okay.
crappy joke that I started off with.
I love it. Okay.
Continue to plow through this.
Okay.
So Chris McCary with 3 Ks.
Has been cut in front.
Yeah, he is there, and he is, he knows he's got his boarding ticket for Group 2, and he is very patient, and he understands the rules. He knows he's there, no point in getting ahead. And as soon as they open boarding, somebody comes barging ahead and tries to cut through and get in, like, as they're boarding, like, the kids and the people in wheelchairs or something like that.
The families, the servicemen and women.
Yeah, just completely upends the order of the way things should go.
Yeah.
And I mentioned this specifically. The majority of my business travel happened when I was working in public relations, and specifically when I was working at an agency where my boss was a legitimate crazy person.
Okay.
She was a pathological liar. And
You've talked about her before.
I've talked about her before. And she also was somebody who just didn't really follow, like, societal norms when it came to things like not barging in front of people to get on a plane.
Yeah.
And it wasn't even on flights where you needed to, like a Southwest flight where it's like kind of a cattle car, scramble for the best seat sort of thing.
Mm-hmm.
She'd do this on flights where we have her own ticket, just because she would get panicky about her being able to get her carry-on in the right spot.
Mm-hmm.
And so as soon as they had opened boarding, she would just jump to the front, try to, like, wave her, like, pass almost under the bar scanner as quickly as she could, and just try to run through the gate. And even if they tried to call after her, she'd like, yeah, sorry, and, like, just keep going. And meanwhile, I'm there traveling with her, And I am by nature a rule follower.
Yeah.
I know you may not seem like it from my cavalier, rebellious attitude here on this podcast, but I am the type of person who, if I'm in downtown LA here, and I'll sit there and wait for the walk guy to show up, even if there's like no cars coming and everyone else is just jaywalking.
You're being stabbed by
all of Richard's punk rock cred is just out the window right now.
Hey, I'm very polite punk rock cred. So I'm just by nature. I just don't. I think there's a natural order of things that we all agree on as a society.
Yeah.
And so to see her do this, then I would sort of be half expected to follow her in. Come on, let's go. Mm-hmm. And I would just say, okay, I don't like doing this, but then am I going to look like a bad employee if I don't do this?
Yeah.
So it got me caught between these two things. And a lot of times I would go to the bathroom and just let her.
Yeah.
Like when it was boarding time, I discovered if I just decided I had to go to the bathroom at the last minute and didn't come back until boarding was already halfway through, I didn't have to deal with it at all.
Yeah.
And it never made sense to me. Like I said, if it was like the Southwest thing where you're trying to get a better seat, maybe I understand that a little bit.
Oh, you got an assigned seat.
But we had an assigned seat.
She's struggling for overhead space.
And just not being in the terminal. I don't know.
Yeah.
It was bizarre.
Yeah.
Don't discount the overhead space. I did a lot of traveling, and that was always, there was a race to get there. And you would see people just throw it up in the very first bin that you could, and basically just, even if they were sitting in the back, they'd throw it in the first one so they didn't lose out on a spot to put their rolling bag up there and then have all sorts of leg room in the plane.
Yeah, I always appreciate the person who tries to put like two bags above when you're supposed to have the second one like under your seat.
Yeah.
And then the flight attendant comes by and then, what? What do you mean? There's plenty of room.
I do like the idea that airlines kind of have this antiquated notion of like politeness and like, well, the women and children, or families with small children should go first, and the elderly, and someone in a wheelchair. Please, everyone, let's let them. And then I like the person that's like, no way,
yeah,
that doesn't apply to me.
This is the person who like pushed the kids out of the way to get into the lifeboat in the Titanic.
Yeah.
That person.
Your boss was Billy Zane.
Basically, yes.
And do you find that sometimes that behavior comes from a person who would be fairly well-mannered in another situation?
No.
Okay, all right.
No, I don't think so. I think generally it comes from, like Michael said, it's the same person who drives up to the front of a giant line. It's the same person who, like, has 25 items in the 15 item or less line at the store. It's that.
They're
guy.
universally entitled to more than others get.
And just have found a way to sort of
play mine first jukebox guy. That we've talked about is like universally hated.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. All right, so gentlemen, good luck in this game because you got an expert. You got your competition. You got your work cut out for you because here comes Chris Cary with his number one choice.
All right. So I didn't quite do categories, but it was close. I spent the first 4 years of my career outside of college traveling extensively. In the first year and a half, I flew, I think it was 130,000 miles.
Oh, wow.
I lived
at once.
Yep, it's a long flight.
This is your captain. I'm not even gonna lie to you. We got another week before we land. We're out of beverages. We're out of fuel.
We're just coasting.
So now, all of my traveling is basically just for fun. It's traveling with a family. So the first one that I have here is something that is incredibly annoying to me as a father and as somebody who's traveling with my family, and that's kind of the close cousin to Richard's first pick, which is gatecrashing. They call, all right, we're now boarding group 1, and everybody with a ticket that says group 6 lines up into a giant semicircle and creates an impenetrable barrier.
Yeah.
And it used to annoy me a little bit when I was a business traveler, but usually I had enough status that I was in group 1 or group 2, so I could pretty much just cut right through them all.
Look at Mr. 1 or 2 over here.
But now that I'm traveling with my wife and my daughter, my wife is carrying my daughter and whatever gigantic bag full of toys to keep her quiet on the flight, and I'm carrying a stroller and a giant car seat. And so it's not easy to navigate through a giant crowd without knocking people over.
Yeah.
And at first it was really I tried to be polite, and then eventually you realized you've just got to steer into the skid and start taking people out.
Right.
Do you feel like
the fact that you've like augmented the child seat to have like spikes on it is wild. That it has like those things, like those little prods that like keep people away.
Yeah, like Ben-Hur, the chariots with the things that stick out.
I'm intrigued by the poor behavior that we're discussing because the airport is a public space, but your poor behavior is visible to everyone. But I think like the things that are about an airport that are different than other spaces we might go to, even like a public space like in another part of the city you live in, is everybody who's there is going somewhere else. And they may not even be from there. Maybe they're on the way from somewhere else. And you don't have to build a reputation with those people. And like airport bars open like 6 a.m. There's people drinking at 8 a.m. at an airport bar. It's just this place that does not obey normal rules.
Yeah, but
the rules of space and time kind of just go out the window.
But why you would ever think I need to claw my way in front of this woman holding a baby? That's horrible.
Everybody does it, and they want to fight to get whatever they can up into the overhead bin and not have to put it at their feet. You have a few hours of forced anonymity coming up.
Yeah. Well, I think that is interesting to me. You mentioned that because yes, these are people you never have to deal with again after this airport world, except you're going to be on a plane with these people for an hour, hours, maybe, and all kind of trapped together.
Yeah.
And it's in other situations like that, people would be extra like courteous or like thinking about like what other people are going to think of me that I'm going to be trapped in this space with.
Yeah.
Except on the airport, man, I'm going to be an asshole, and I don't care if you guys sit next to me. I'm going to just wear it.
Yeah.
And I don't care.
You're going to pass the guy in 22C on your way to the bathroom, and you're going to shoot him daggers every time.
I don't think you would be a dick on your way into an elevator because you're going to be standing right next to that person you were a dick to.
I'm always amazed, though, I'm always amazed that when you are getting off of an elevator, how many people are pushing on, and you're like, man, you are fighting against what's going to make this faster trip for you. Yeah. You know that I've got to get off. If you're going to get on before me, I'm going to push through you. I wonder if it would be like
you're putting the 2 liters of Cokes like on top of the bread. The whole thing's stacking wrong is what it is.
I wonder what it would be like to be the person that just doesn't get off the elevator.
Yeah.
And they're stuck at the back and they're just like,
yeah,
I'm going up to 24 now. So,
okay, Michael and Richard, what's your second?
Our second pick is holding up security.
Oh, okay.
That's also mine.
Is it?
Yes,
Oh, good.
Okay.
My number one.
We have been living within a world of post 9/11 airport checks and extra 2-hour. You've got to be at the airport 2 hours ahead, and if you're flying internationally, maybe it's 3 hours ahead. By now, you should know that you might be taking off your shoes or belt buckles or emptying your pockets, and the person that's in line that just doesn't pay any attention to this is amazing. That they maybe this is the first time they've flown. It's doubtful, but just that you don't have that knowledge to go in and then go through the extra motion of like, oh, I got to take off my belt buckle too. I got to take my shoes off now. I have to turn my phone off.
Wait, my laptop goes where exactly? Even though they've been in this line for 20 minutes, at least,
and they're passing sign upon sign.
Sign upon sign, depending where you're at. They got
remain seated, please.
If you're in Vegas, they got the wacky video with Carrot Top telling you to do it,
and
with lots of props.
A woman in ill-fitting costume has told you many times, ladies and gentlemen, now is the time. Okay, sorry.
Yeah, and
you're like I was there.
Yeah,
like I'm at the airport, man. And you're watching people ahead of you do this same thing, but people are like, they get into the security line and they just like go away. They like they just shut down.
Yeah,
because being in a security line is so awful and so frustrating to be the person who's in it, waiting for that. And my best part is, my favorite is the person who complains with how slow security is. Yeah. And, God, come on, people, get it together up there. And then they get to the line and they've been so busy complaining about it.
Boarding pass. Wait,
hold on a second. You need to see my ID? What? Yeah, that person.
This was the exact choice that led me to do it. I had gotten out of security, and I was in there, and I heard somebody complaining, wait, I have to take my shoes off? And I was like, it's been 16 years since 9/11, 16 years since the shoe bomber.
Yeah.
You can't be surprised by it.
Yeah.
I stand there in line, and I am, like, as soon as I get into the queue, I'm taking my belt off, sticking it in a bag, taking everything out of my pockets, sticking it in my bag.
Pants are off, too.
Opening it up.
It's weird. Chris gets weird with it.
Hey, safety is our
Vigilance.
first priority, okay?
Yeah, one thing I will say about some of these choices is that I do find it fascinating that we are kind of when you enter into the airport, you're now entering into this dystopian, essentially slaughterhouse.
Oh, for sure.
Where all of our rights we're being lined up and funneled into this metal box, and the airline flying experience has been gradually diminished over the years, where it started off as this kind of luxurious thing where you were wined and dined and treated like a king. And now every right has been removed, every comfort has been removed. But in light of that, should we not be more civil to each other? But at some point, I can think, is it even though the airport has treated us so poorly, shouldn't we be nice to each other? Is that one of the reasons why we long for a return to civility inside this place?
Well, it's great because there's like this, not great, but there's this absolute like power grab within the airport where you don't have the same rights that you do outside of an airport that you do inside. You don't have the same rights, 500 feet from the airport as you do.
Yeah.
Because right outside they count that as the same. And I think when you're in line too, I think the person that doesn't follow along also gets that thing in their head where they're it's different from airport to airport.
Uh-huh.
So maybe they take their belt off at one airport, they don't have to at another, and then suddenly I like when that person suddenly gets angry that they don't have to do something that they did have to do at McCarran or whatever, and you're like, just be happy you don't have to take your shoes off for once.
Right.
When other people aren't taking their shoes off and you start to take them off, like, just be okay. Like, okay, maybe this is fine, instead of like going off on an insane rant.
Uh-huh. Hey, here's some good news. For you, the listeners of Mount Rushmore Podcast, Audible is offering a free audiobook download with a free 30-day trial to give you, yes, you, the opportunity to check out their service. You could check out Attention All Passengers, The Truth About the Airline Industry by William J. McGee. That's right, with Audible, you can get a free audiobook download and a 30-day free trial at www.audibletrial.com/Rushmore, with over 180,000 titles to choose from for your iPhone, Android, Kindle, or MP3 player. To download your free audiobook today, go to audibletrial.com/Rushmore. Again, that's audibletrial.com/Rushmore for your free audiobook. Hey, you know what's a great thing to do while you're standing in line at the airports? Listen to podcasts and listen to the Mount Rushmore podcast. So please download, rate, and review all of the past episodes of the Mount Rushmore podcast before you get on your next flight, and maybe it'll help you keep your modicum of chill as somebody's trying to fight you to be first off the plane after you land, and stuff like that. You can also, while you're landing, while you're sitting there waiting for the plane to empty, go on Facebook and join the discussion on the Mount Rushmore Facebook page. Follow us on Twitter and Instagram. If you just search Mount Rushmore Podcast, you'll probably find all of those things. So we are back. So Michael and Richard are trying valiantly to compete against the guy who thought up this very subject, and that is Chris Cary, our guest on this episode of Mount Rushmore Podcast. Michael and Richard, what do you have for your third choice?
Our third choice comes right out of our second choice.
Yeah, they kind of dovetails nicely, I believe.
And that's security or ticketing being just awful power-hungry people.
Oh, yeah.
Now,
And I will also, by the way, throw airport police into this. Mm-hmm. The airport cops outside, like when you're trying to park to pick somebody up.
yeah.
The worst.
Oh.
The absolute worst.
It's not just the people that are traveling that are awful people in the airport. It's people that work there, too.
Yeah.
That there is we get it that maybe they're not paid as much, but for those, few moments, they kind of take that power back a little bit.
And as we've been discussing and will discuss, the airport is full of awful, awful passengers.
Yes.
So I get that.
Yeah.
They have to deal with shitheads.
Yeah.
They have
8
to
hours a day, 5 days a week.
They have to deal with a guy that's complaining that they don't have to take their shoes off all of a sudden.
Uh-huh.
And now it's time
Do
for
you-
them to get a little bit of revenge.
Do you think that is it a little bit of an overuse of I guess if there was it's not a syllogism. What is it that 9/11 happened on a plane? Planes come out of airports. They work for airports. Therefore, anything you do that they don't like means you are a terrorist. Is that some of the authoritative?
I don't think these guys are even thinking that far ahead because, look, most of these guys got this job because they used to be working at
DSW shoes,
DSW shoes or something.
making sure both these loafers are a size 12.
Right,
in
and
the
then
box, yeah.
then their buddy Tony or their cousin got a job at TSA
Okay.
and was able to get them on.
Okay.
No offense to our TSA agent listeners on the podcast,
Yeah.
but it's not the most stringent requirements, and I don't think most of these people consider themselves to be the last line of defense against domestic terrorism. They're just guys who are there because there's decent union benefits. So yeah, when they get a chance, somebody comes up and has a question about whether or not does toothpaste count as a liquid or what do I?
Yeah.
No, well, can't you read the rules? No. They're not doing that because they're concerned that these 65-year-old woman from Iowa who's flying out for the first time in her life is actually a terror, the toothpaste terrorist.
Yeah.
We had a Christmas. We were going home, and my wife was traveling. My wife was pregnant. We had our toddler, and I'm going through security with him as well. My wife's like, I don't want to do the X-ray scan. And it's a 4 a.m. or a 6 a.m. flight, so we're there at 4 in the morning. Mm-hmm. Nobody's happy, but we're trying to be polite. We're trying to keep our daughter polite. She goes walking through. She's like, I need to go through in the regular, just the metal detector. Mm-hmm. The guy he's like, I know you're going through the metal detector. And she's like, yeah, I'm pregnant. I don't want to go through the X-ray. And he's like, no, that's not why you're not going. And proceeds to berate her for why she's not going through, and holds her up for a good 30 seconds to a minute to tell her, no, you're not going through there because you have a toddler with you. And it's like, that's great. Could she have just done that?
Yeah.
But it's the idea of you get somebody who has no power outside of there, you give them a little power, and they're going with it.
It's the Stanford experiment brought to horrifying life at airports all across the country.
You'll shock your fellow.
Yeah, exactly.
At the airport, too, it kind of has that same thing, especially if you go in with a ticket and you go to the ticketing counter or check in and they don't have your name, and who knows how you booked your ticket. Yeah. Whether you booked it through a travel agency, which doesn't exist anymore, or you book it through, hotels.com, or through the airline directly. There are so many systems that are being integrated, and the person that is just there to take your ticket has to deal with I don't know how you got to this spot in front of me where you're yelling at me, but now I'm gonna yell back at you, and the only reason you're getting on this plane is because of me. And so I can't believe you're being awful to me. So I'm going to be awful to you now.
Yeah.
But the other person is, the passenger is
just wants to get on the damn plane.
Yeah.
Everyone just wants to get on the damn plane.
Yeah. I used to get flagged as a drug mule all the time. If you're traveling as a single guy in your 20s and you're not you don't have a carry-on, or don't have checked luggage, they instantly think you're a drug mule. So apparently they thought I was doing the Omaha to San Francisco route every week. I would get pulled out of line all the time.
Oh my god! The Omaha to San Francisco drug trade. Corn futures.
Okay, Chris, your third is what?
My third is kind of in defense of we're very
okay.
mean to a lot of the employees of the airport, and I want to be.
To be fair, Michael he's the one who said it.
In defense of them, this is kind of the worst thing that business travelers do, and that's harassing gate agents. The big one being, if you travel a lot, eventually they start sending your company or your travel agency, or they start sending you upgrade tickets, which means if nobody's bought that ticket or a seat in business class, they'll give you a free upgrade. You just have to give them this little ticket. But then you wind up putting your name on a list. And so if you're flying back and forth from JFK to San Francisco on a Thursday afternoon or Friday afternoon, that's everyone on the flight. And so you see these people go up constantly and harass the gate agent of so you think I'm going to get business class? So where am I on this? Where am I on the list? And they just start harassing them. And then that guy leaves, and the next guy comes up and does the exact same thing. And you slowly see the life or the will to live just drain from the poor gate agent.
Yeah.
And I did it once and then realized what I was doing and heard the next 3 people do it and went, never going to do that again.
I do wonder what it would be like. So ostensibly an airport is a company that sells a product. Like if you had this product to sell and then the weather changed in Poughkeepsie and now your product is wiped out.
Yeah.
And you had somebody yelling at you in perfectly sunny Los Angeles. That would aggravate the hell out of me.
I think one thing about traveling is that you always assume that the ticket person or whoever is interested in how special you are.
Yeah.
When we went to Iceland, I remember we were, talking to the ticketing person or whatever's they're checking in, and you bring your name and your ID and everything up, especially internationally. Like, oh yeah, we're going to Iceland for a honeymoon, and just mentioning for our honeymoon, you suddenly in your mind you build this expectation of like, well, of course they're just gonna give you free champagne on the they heard that you said you're on your honeymoon and that they're gonna most likely they'll probably want to upgrade me to first class just because we're going on our honeymoon. Neither of this we didn't get any free anything or whatever, but
at Fridays you'd get a brownie with a candle in it or something like that. At the airport you get the finger. Yeah.
And I think that just speaks to your own human nature.
In the advertising. In the advertising, they show the person putting a comfy pillow behind the person's head as they go to sleep.
That's never happened to me.
It's in the marketing you expect what the commercial says, like a burger at the McDonald's. You realize it's a smushy mess of what you thought you were going to eat.
But then leading back to what Chris said is like, the business traveler who does it every week builds up their own expectation in their own mind about how important they are. And if they travel so much, so obviously they need to upgrade me, and I'm
a premier exec. I'm a premier exec 1K. You say all those things, and then you realize everyone in the terminal is just like you.
Okay, guys, it's kind of futile. I feel like you are in coach right now, and Chris is in first class. But see if you can work your way up with your last.
We're flying Spirit Airlines here,
Oh my
Jeff.
God.
I believe us what we're doing.
I hope you brought your own seat. No, you have to bring your own seat.
We're the guys in the airplane that are like rowing the wings.
Yeah.
Like the old galleys.
So our last one is the person who decides they really need to watch, the latest Fast and the Furious movie on their laptop or their tablet or whatever they have, even if they don't have headphones.
Yeah.
And I'm sure everyone else within, a 200-foot radius of me will want to hear it as well, even if they can't see it.
Yeah.
Clearly, I am providing mirth and entertainment to everyone around me. Even the people who look like they'd really like to sleep for an hour before the flight gets here. Now, their lives will be better off if they can hear Vin Diesel.
Have you not seen Fast and Furious? Do you know that's all about family? Taking care of your family.
As I've heard.
Jeff Hopkins as Sylvester Stallone as Vin Diesel in the Fast and Furious.
Man, Jeff is taking over my mantle with the impressions over here, isn't he?
Do you? I kind of bemoan the time when this was. I think the first time I flew was 15, so it was in 1962, and then back then you used to introduce yourself to people on the flight.
Oh no! Oh God, no!
Yeah.
Oh, why would you do that, Jeff?
I think because flying had a little bit more of a formality to it, or something like that. Like the first flight I ever took, you could actually smoke on a plane, so that's how.
Oh wow!
I don't know. That was a while ago, but
was it a Pan Am flight? Did you show up in a suit?
It was the Spruce Goose. Actually, I was in the Spruce Goose. And I think there was a little bit more of an interaction and recognition of the people around you. Now we're these solitary individuals who...
And you're oblivious to the world around you, basically.
Yeah. Is there other indecencies? Like one thing that we haven't talked about, we've been talking about bad airport behavior, not necessarily bad airplane behavior, but the... just that bubble that you're supposed to stay within when you're in your seating area.
Right.
That sounds like this person's violating that audibly.
Well, yeah. I mean, this could extend to any number of things that happen actually in the plane. Yeah. And you're right. It's sort of, they're all related. Like
this person has their bag on the seat next to them while they're watching something on their laptop. Yeah. They're taking up extra space as well.
Okay, hang on. You're encroaching on my forte.
Okay. That's okay. Bring it in.
Which is basically not manspreading, but basically spreading out way too much in the in the waiting area.
It's rude when they string up like a hammock.
I was at a flight not too long ago where a basketball team from a local college, I won't mention which one, but Richard went there. Their basketball team was
University of Phoenix Online.
DeVry Institute has a basketball team?
was
What?
laying out across seats.
Oh God.
So it's like you have guys who are 7 feet tall laying across like 9 chairs, and then they've got their bags at their feet and their head.
Yeah.
And so it's like, okay, well, there's nowhere for me to sit. There's nowhere for my wife. There's nowhere for my daughter.
Oh, this was pre-flight. This was boarding.
Boarding
Oh, okay,
area,
yeah,
like
yeah.
sitting down and then just spreading.
Yeah.
Should have sat on one of them. See what happened.
These guys must be 6'7" monsters that are just taking up 3.5.
They're actually Monstars.
Monstars.
I went to the University of Looney Tunes. Didn't want to bring it up, but
Okay.
it's like I may be encroaching on Jeff's. Let's put a button on this and sort of summarize everything.
I'm gonna throw a hand grenade into this right before we. Summarize.
Now talk about bad air.
Yeah, or a hand grenade. See, that's when security is right to get upset with you. No, I think, Jeff, you brought up just how unpleasant airline travel is now versus 20 years ago, 30 years ago, even 10 years ago. And I think people now, they anticipate a pretty miserable flight experience unless you're in business class or first class, which I have flown exactly once.
Yeah.
And I wish I hadn't because it broke me for airline travel for the rest of my life.
Yeah.
So people are so predisposed to the whole experience being miserable
Yeah.
that they come into the airport
Yeah.
with bad attitudes.
With their hackles up, ready to.
Yeah,
fight.
just like it's like I would imagine being in a line for bread in the Soviet Union or something, right?
Yeah.
Like you just expect this miserable experience, and so you're ready to be twice as miserable
Yeah.
to kind of counteract it.
Yeah, you don't see a lot of smiley face check-ins from the DMV, like people on
No.
Facebook saying "having fun at the DMV." Like people go there.
Let me see if I can get a selfie with the guy that's taking my photo.
I almost wish that's the place you could also get a rectal colon exam too, because they just get all the miserable shit
Right.
out at once. Yeah, so in a way, you already go there saying it's me versus the airport. Anybody else around me who gets hurt in the process is just a casualty of me fighting the man.
Right.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, collateral damage is what it is.
These have made some very compelling arguments, and one thing that I want to throw into the mix before I do the final tally, spoiler, Chris is probably going to win. One thing I want to throw into the mix is that I am the only non-parent in the group, and I have a little bit of a pet peeve. Usually I buckle, but when a family comes on the plane and they all want to sit together and they're not seated together. And I understand that planning for travel can happen sometimes soon. It can happen sometimes late. Things can change. They get bumped from one flight to another. But I always feel like a dick if I don't want to move so Caleb can sit next to Trevor and they can be next to their mom and everything. They're a nice little family. Usually I think y'all should have gotten your seats online already and figured that shit out. Counterpoint.
I'm with you. I had that happen on a flight from Denver to San Francisco with a couple on their honeymoon.
Yeah.
They both had seats right behind, or like middle seats right behind each other, and they asked to switch seats with me, and I had an aisle. And you can't say no.
Yeah.
But I had to.
A lot
I
of
said
people
no.
can. Maybe you couldn't.
I said no, got stuck in the very last row in dead center. But the only nice thing was, usually the flight attendants are nice and they'll give you a few free drinks.
Yeah. Okay. Do you feel like is this an unpopular thing that I brought up because I feel like a dick?
No, it puts you in a bad spot. No. It puts you in the spot of either having to be a dick or give up this thing that you have rightfully you did your job.
Yeah.
You checked in early, you booked your flight early, whatever it happens to be.
Yeah.
Well, usually the situation too is that it's never something that you're giving up that will benefit you. Like putting Caleb and Trevor next to their mom. It means you're sitting in a middle seat.
Yeah.
Because usually you're not getting a seat that is a benefit to you.
Yeah.
Somehow it's a downgrade no matter what. So you're like in your head you're doing that calculus of, well, now I got to sit in the middle and I'm 6'1", and like this is going to be awful, and someone's going to be crawling over me. Like, so you do that quick assessment, and then,
So, guys, thank you so much. And you know what I love about this podcast? It didn't get into stand-up comedy territory. There was no what's the deal with blank, the food.
What is the deal with the food?
Oh, shit. Okay, guess what? You guys might have had a point until that moment, but now you don't.
Thanks, Michael.
You're going to have to split some points with Chris Cary. So, Chris Cary, thank you so much for lending. How many miles do you have under? 150 million in your first year, is that what you
It
said?
was 130,000 in the first year. I currently have 200,000 United miles sitting there waiting to be spent.
Hey, I got 10,000 miles on Alaska Air burning a hole in my pocket right now, guys. So
This is like a good blues song. I got 10,000 miles burning a hole in my pocket.
it's more like a blues traveler
A blues traveler. So, Chris, Gatecrashing, get a point. Boom.
It's a good ska band, by the way, the Gatecrashers.
The Gatecrashers. Harassing gate agents. Boom. That's just for Chris Cary, that point. Uh-oh. We got to split a point. Beam. Holding up security is split between Chris and Team Man Winfield. And then no headphones. That's a full point for Team Man
All
Winfield. Right. And then... Is that it?
That's it.
That's it. So this has, guys.
Yeah.
Oh my God, our flight's taking off.
Shit!
Oh God. Oh no. Why did we miss the boarding call?
Because I was getting drunk at the bar, guys.
Oh, I was busy harassing the gate agent. Oh, nuts. Well, this has been the Mount Rushmore Podcast. I have been Jeff.
I'm Richard.
And Michael.
I'm Chris.
Bye.